Okay, some other useful commands. del is one that you'll actually erase the file or group of files with. You can also use the erase command. ren renames the file, and then copy will allow you to, as you can imagine, copy a file from a source to a destination. Okay, the /v looks at the size of each new file compared to the size of the original. So you can actually see if the file changes in size, which it shouldn't, but sometimes you've got those weird anomalies. Okay, and then \y is a confirmation message that appears asking you to basically confirm overwriting a file if you're copying a file from one source to a destination and that file already exists. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Okay. Then you got recover. Okay, this one is going to attempt to recover any types of a file that are corrupted. Expand is going to extract files from compressed distribution files. Okay, so this is usually with software installations and stuff like that. You can see some of the uses right here. Okay, the install me, the program cab file. Cab files are very common in Windows to do installations. So that's where the expand command would kind of come in. You can basically think of it as unzipping if you're familiar with that term. It's essentially the exact same thing. Xcopy, which we looked at. Okay, so this one will allow you to copy something from an entire directory. Okay, so here's some of the examples here. You got the S command, which will include any and all subdirectories in the copy as well. Here you've got the E, which will do the same thing as the S, but the empty subdirectories are included as well. Okay, and then \D, which will examine the dates, and then all files from the directory modified, on or before that specific date will then be copied. Okay, so you got a little more versatility with Xcopy than you do with the standard copy command. Okay, you can be a whole lot more specific in some of your copyings. \Y overwrites existing files without any prompt. C is going to keep copying even with any type of errors. Okay, so Xcopy is definitely the command you want to use when you're dealing with bulk copy, whereas copy command is where you want to deal with individual files as you see fit. Robocopy is just a robust file copy command. Okay, and you can see very similar type of handles with that as well, where you actually, like S is including the directories, okay, everything but the empty directories. E, again, same thing as with the Xcopy. Okay, the \log is going to overwrite the current log. Okay, and you can see that \log plus is going to append. That means it's just going to add that log file on there. Move is going to move file directories, and purge is going to delete everything. Okay, so that's that robocopy command. The next couple we have looked at, the GUI interface version of these. That's going to be the check disk, which will go through and fix system errors, find bad sectors, recover those as well, and everything like that. If you remember, this is where you would go into your C drive, you'd right click, you go to properties, click on the tools tab, and then you see that check disk, the error checking option right there at the top. Okay, so this is the command line version of it, and the \F does the fixing, the R does the recovering. Okay, so you can kind of gather how to use that command. Then we have defrag. Okay, again, just like the GUI interface, it does the same thing. This is just how to use the command line version. Okay, defrag with the actual drive letter, we'll just defrag it, and then the \C is going to defrag all volumes on the computer, including the C drive. Okay, so it'll do basically defragging everything for you. Okay, so that's a useful command as well. Format. Format is something that you will use on other drives and thumb drives, CDs, DVDs, maybe, or something like that. Okay, but you do format and you give the drive letter, and then that's going to do a full format of the drive. Okay, you definitely want to make sure that you've got all your data off before you do this. \Q is going to do a quick format. Same thing, it just doesn't go bit by bit, so it's not as thorough. Okay, and then you've got the different file systems you can format as. Okay, so you've got NTFS, FAT32, and exFAT. Okay, format is a very useful command. It used to be used a whole lot more when we had floppy disks, but it's still a very useful command when you're dealing with thumb drives or anything like that. Okay, one fun fact is that when Windows Vista came out, one of the big issues, security issues they had, was that they implemented the voice technology and everything where you could actually give your commands over voice. And one of the commands you could give was the format command. So when you had Vista, when it first got released, you could actually go in there and say format C, and it would erase your entire hard drive. Okay, and that includes Windows and everything. So obviously this was a little bit of an issue within Windows, so they had to fix that as quickly as possible. That was one of one of the many issues with Windows Vista. Shutdown. This one is a very useful command, especially when we start looking at remote desktops, virtualization, and stuff like that. Because when you remote into a computer, you'll notice that the shutdown command is actually removed from your options there. You actually, to be able to shut down something remotely, you have to use this shutdown command. So some of the handles that can be used, \R is for restarting, \SM is basically restarting a mobile computer, or I'm sorry, remote computer named Blue Light. Okay, so shut down SM Blue Light with the timer of 60 seconds. We'll give it a 60-second delay. I is for giving a shutdown dialog box to choose whether or not the computer shuts down. S, full, and T is going to perform the shutdown immediately rather than pushing it off or delaying it, and rather than hibernating it as well. Okay, so one thing you'll learn within command prompt is that yes, it takes a whole lot more knowledge and a lot of practice and stuff, but you can really have a lot of fun with it. And what I mean by that is you can really screw with a lot of people with this. Okay, for instance, there's a command that I used to use when I was working at Sam Houston State where it's a net use command. So with that, you can actually you can display dialog boxes on remote computers. So my roommate was an ag major and obviously didn't know computers too well. So every time he would log on to a computer in the computer lab, I would have it prompt me, or I'd have it basically doing a search for him. And when he logged in, it would tell me he's logged in. So I would use that net use command. I'd throw up a prompt saying there's an error with your computer and your computer's going to shut down in 5 minutes. And then if he dismissed it, I would pop another one up about a minute later saying this computer is going to log off in such and such minutes. And then I keep on, but as I got closer, they would get a whole lot more pronounced. I would say, due to continued efforts, this computer is going to self-destruct in 30 seconds and all this other stuff. So obviously it didn't take him too long to figure out it was me, but it still was a lot of fun to be able to mess with them for a little bit. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do. I mean, obviously with the shutdown command, you can go in there and shut down somebody's computer remotely without even giving them the choice. So stuff like that, it makes an administrator's life a little bit easier, but can also be fun to kind of mess with somebody as well. Okay, and then last but not least, we look at Windows PowerShell. This is basically their updated version of the command prompt. It started out as a Windows Server exclusive type of application, but now it's starting to move to replace command line utility for almost all of its operating systems. So you'll see in Windows 8 as well. Okay, with this, the commands and everything like that are entered are going to be essentially exactly the same. But in addition to the commands that you're used to, they also have thousands of other commands called commandlets that technicians and administrators can use to utilize these tools within networking and server administration and everything like that. So to get to this, you just go to Start, Run, and PowerShell, or Windows X and PowerShell, depending on which version you're running. All right, so that's it for part 4, and we'll pick up with the last little section in chapter 10 dealing with disk management and storage spaces and stuff like that.